This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Well, we are just about to start a new season here in the Northern Hemisphere. And, change might be on our mind here, changing of the season, maybe thinking about making some changes in your life. For me, this time of the year, it's almost like a mini New Year's. Yeah, because it's a radical change where you go from spring to summer. Weather changes a little bit. You get a little busier during the summer. But now kids go back to school. It's just a different mindset. With that, maybe you're looking to make some changes with the people in your life. Maybe taking, I call it inventory, and maybe eliminating some of those that don't support you, i.e., the toxic relationship. We're going to talk about that today. And she is the woman behind Feels Fostering Freedom, offering counseling, psychotherapy, grief recovery, and so much more. She is back with us. Fiona Mitten is on the program. How's everything in your world today?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Nice day to wake up. Good day to have a good day.
As it should be every day. And not every day we take inventory of our life and those in it, but maybe we should. What are your thoughts even before we dig into this? Should we do this from time to time and just take a look at, who's around us, what's going on within our lives?
Absolutely, because there's certain people in my life that I need to set boundaries with. There's certain people in my life that build me up, and other ones that suck the life out of me. And we all live with both those types of people, right? And some hide it really well. So I always kind of let people do their thing, but it's important to give yourselves like 3 months just to see, because it's human nature to put our best foot forward, right? It's human nature to have these masks on that we don't even know we're wearing until they start to chip away, right? And that normally happens around 90 days into any relationship, whether it's a friendship, a partnership, a spousal, any relationship. So it's important to give yourself time to be able to see those flags, the red flags they call them, right? and if you don't give yourself that time and you just jump into things, that's when things get really, really scary.
I've heard that we, without us even knowing it, we reevaluate our lives every 5 years, give or take. A little bit of latitude. Everybody's different. And that thing, the 7-year itch, is because after you evaluate your life every 5 years, you take 2 years to decide, what am I going to do? And many times we make a decision to change a relationship, a strong one, and that's the 7-year itch. Now I look at that and I trace back my life every 7 years, call it a coincidence or not. And within a period around 7 years, not to the day, but there were things that presented like major things in, close personal relationships, call it even marriage, and it was right around the 7 years. So I think there may be some truth to that notion. What are your thoughts?
Well, absolutely. So I live in a world where I take kind of a daily inventory, right? Not an annual or semi. Like, it's important to, if I want to be 1% better tomorrow, I need to look at the end of my day yesterday to make sure that I'm moving forward better. 1%, that's all I ask for about myself. And so that 7-year itch that's more of a, I mean, it's real. There's no dissuading that at all, and it's not a coincidence. It's because I think people kind of get bored, right? Like they don't put as much effort into their relationships. They start to wane to the side of what's important and what's not important. And if they've done that 5-year inventory, but they've done it for themselves and not for the relationship, right? Doing your own inventory is wonderful, but you need to do your couple's inventory or your friendship's inventory. It needs to be done together, not just on your own. It's very important, if you want to build something that's healthy, that you do those nightly check-ins or the annual inventories, or however you look at that. Doesn't matter how often you do it, but if you're in a partnership, you need to do that together. Very important, because you need to build where you want to both be.
This all sounds negative, but I look at it more as a positive. We talk about toxic relationships and see who belongs in your life, who supports you, and others should be doing the same exact thing. You know, maybe you're in somebody's life and maybe you don't support them. Um, it sounds nasty, but I think it's the way it should be in life. I remember I was going through a life change, and a friend of mine said, "Those people in your life, they don't serve you anymore." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's harsh." You know, it sounds like you're the king on the hill, and you're like, "You go now, you go now." But they were 100% right. Things had changed, and I don't support them. They don't support me. It's not a fit anymore. Going in different directions. So I had to make a change there. Not a bad thing, right?
Not necessarily. Most times when you're at the jumping off point, it's actually very healthy to do that, because reality is if you're not bringing anything to the relationship and they're not reciprocating anything, there's nothing healthy there, right? And we spend years trying to make something work that was not really hasn't been working in decades. And then we wonder why people are unhappy, or we wonder why people fall in love with other people they're not actually married to, or they, there's so many reasons that stuff happens. Is because if we're in, like I said already, if we're in that partnership and we don't do that inventory together, then we're not really a partner, right?
Hmm.
It's very important to stay on top of honesty, right? Because that's another thing. People will keep a secret. Just the partner will keep a secret, just little tiny secret. I mean, we talked about last week, secrets of keep, right? Not a couple weeks ago. And even if it's just a little tiny secret, sometimes things can start to swell and make that tiny little thing that you kept a secret just blow up in your face, right? And we don't really realize when we're in toxicity, in a toxic, unhealthy relationship, that we're even in it, because you can't see the picture if you're in the picture.
How do
Other
you
people,
define when you say toxic relationship? How would we know that we're in one? Sometimes it's obvious, maybe sometimes it's not.
I think the subtle ones are by far more dangerous, because it just
Mm.
drills you down, 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 right? The ones that are really evident, people notice, and they're more likely to ask for help or get, um, what is that little subtle, it's a subtle, spiteful word, or um, thinking sarcasm is funny, right? Like there's so many of those little subtle that we just ignore, because we go, oh, it's just a one-off thing. Or like my late husband called me a bad word one day, and I said to him, I said, you will never do that to me. And I said, one time, you get one chance. You've done it, that's it, never again. So for me, it's about boundaries, and it's about being healthy in those boundaries. And if people are not willing to, if I don't respect myself, I teach people how to treat me. So if I don't respect myself, I will let people in that treat me like crap. Because if I don't respect myself, I don't deserve respect from you. So when I teach me how to, like, I know how I want to be treated. And if you treat me less than that, then you're not in my life. It just is what it is.
Mm. Um, I don't know if it's a woman thing, but my experience and hearing from others, they never forget.
No.
Especially, like you said, a word, and it can happen. Somebody in a moment, like, "Ah," and the word comes out. Women never forget. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just a thing. Men, yeah, all right, that happened. I'm file it in the back of my mind, whatever. Um, like it's amazing how women, most have a recall of those things.
Well, I think men probably do too, but it's like you said, just goes in that it just goes away. Like you just stuff it.
Yeah.
And I had an experience where I seen a friend of a girlfriend who's not my friend anymore, because it was appalling. Her husband had said something at the kitchen table. This was years ago, probably 30 years ago. And she walked by him and slapped him in the back of the head at the kitchen table. And I'm like, it was the first time I'd actually seen a woman abuse a man. Like I'd never seen it happen. And I was like, I'll just say Joe, because I don't know, I want to say her name, but anyway. And I said, why were you so mean to him? Well, he just doesn't get it. And I'm like, that doesn't mean you have to slap him. right? Like he's a grown man. Why would you just not have a conversation with him? So there's a lot of that too. Like there's a lot of people that men don't get abused, and that's not true. There's a lot of men taking the blame for things that are not necessarily their fault. Because
Mm.
we women are pretty talented at manipulation, right? Yeah, fact, straight up fact. And so I don't know if it's all women, but I know that about me. And I know that I have the ability, if I really wanted to be that person, I could still be that person. I do, however, make daily choices not to be that person, right?
Mm. What do we do if we identify somebody is not right for us? Toxic, we'll call it that. And I'm not talking about the intimate relationships, even just the people around you that just, how do you, when you make that determination, or how do you make that determination? And then how do you sever that tie? Every situation is different, but any suggestions on how to get that done?
Okay, well, so making the decision first and foremost, like we asked about the birds last time, and that was nobody took any action. So let's say like I had an unhealthy relationship with a friend of mine years ago, and she was in a really dysfunctional relationship, but then our relationship would also become dysfunctional and toxic because I kept trying to help her and save her and say this person's not good for you. Like what do you see in him? What do you love about him? She's like, oh, he's just there. And I'm like, that's not love. And they end up getting married and having 5 children, and she got beat up all the time. And I had to say to her, I said, I love you with every fiber in my being. I'm not able to help you, and I need to step back because this is now making my life insane. And that was a really hard boundary for me to make because I still love her today. Like she's my friend. And it's but I'm not willing to sit there and allow my friend to get hurt. So if that's the case, I need to remove myself from the situation, right? So my first step is identifying what's healthy for me and then realizing that this person's not healthy for me, no matter what kind of relationship it is. And so to make like first you got to make a boundary and say, I will not accept this treatment. Like I'm worth more than this. And then the stepping stone of how to get out of that would be self-discovery, speaking with somebody about it, learning how to be honest about your own emotional well-being, and putting up boundaries for yourself. And once they
Mm.
start, because nobody that's toxic is going to be willing to listen to somebody if they have a boundary. You don't get treated this way, and I stand up for myself. They won't stick around very long. Like they'll leave on their own accord. When you start to get well, they will just disperse.
Mm. You said that word boundary, and I'm thinking that a lot of this begins at that word.
Begins with us. What
Mm.
boundaries I make for how I allow people to treat me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and it's funny how over a period of time, you don't even realize it that you haven't set a boundary. And that's why this is going in the direction it's going in, which is not a positive direction. I remember this is a year ago. I left here. It's about 5:30 p.m. and I had a meeting later in the day. And there's a little tiny airport right around a mile away. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just go grab something to eat. I'm gonna sit at the airport and just like the breeze is coming in. I'm gonna relax, maybe see a plane take off, and just like have a moment. I gotta go back to work. And the phone rings, and it was somebody I'm very close to, and I know it's going to be a therapy session for me on the phone with them. And I felt guilty about not taking the call, but then I also felt guilty, like I'm cheating myself that I just had this moment here. I took the call knowing what to expect, and it was what it was. I don't want to say negativity, but it's just like heavy, and I just no. But from that point forward, I started putting up boundaries where, I'm off the grid, in certain situations. But that was the beginning of I can't do this. I'm blessed that somebody reaches out to me for, to bounce things off of and help and insight. But I can't do that all the time. It's almost like you're cheating yourself.
Yep, it is feeding yourself. So a really good example of that is this, as like very blatant, simple example of that is I have a dear friend. I've known her for probably 35 years, 40 years, probably most of my life. And she would always call me and say, and she's always got something wrong. It's another thing, it's another thing, it's another thing. It's always something. And so I would answer the phone. And then one day I didn't ask because I would say, hey, how are you doing? And she'd start off, blah, 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 blah. And then one day I just finally said, hey, what's your plans for today? And she kind of stopped talking. And she said, how come you didn't ask me how I am? I'm like, well, because why would I ask? Because it never changes.
Hmm.
And right, it's the truth. So because we have people in our lives that build us up and we have people that suck us dry, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's where those boundaries come in that's a must. I must have boundaries in my life to prevent people from sucking the energy I have. And I love to have people in me to help build me up and for me to build them up. It's about helping each other become better people, not worse people.
And going back to the feeling like you cheat yourself, it is, and we may not even know that we're doing it, but we know it doesn't feel right. And I've gotten to the point of trying to practice some self-care. I never did it. If I don't do something for myself over a couple of days, that could go for a walk. That could be take an hour and just chill. Maybe read another couple of pages out of a book. I feel like I'm literally cheating myself. Like I'm not, I feel guilty that I didn't take care of me. But and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just putting up the boundaries, but it's also the mindset. And we feel guilty if we do things for ourselves a lot, which isn't good, but it is what it is.
Yeah. We don't have to though, because I schedule time. So I have a schedule. And because I'm very easily led, like I'm people, oh, Fiona, can you help with this? Can you help with that? Can you help? And I'm always there. And then I'm like, you know what? I need to live my life on a schedule. So I schedule my personal time and I schedule like you're on my schedule. Friday morning, 9:30, I'm with Steve, right? So then I have stuff booked in after that, but it's all in my schedule. It's not, I don't have free time. And I make it so I don't have free time. So people can't phone me and say, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? No, I'm busy. My day is packed. I can talk to you about it tomorrow. I can schedule next week. So I need to do that because I don't want to get taken advantage of because it's difficult for everybody. It's not just me. It's hard to say no, right? People in need, they want help. I mean, I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, but I can't be there for people if I'm not there for myself. I don't even like the word can't. I'm not capable of being there for people if my cup is not overflowing. I don't ever want to fill my cup. My cup is always full and I give what the overflow is.
Never saw it that way. Thank you for saying that. I've heard about the cup, but the overflow goes to others. Never thought of it that way. And never, I know this is ridiculous, but I've never scheduled self-care time. Yes, I'll go to the gym. I'm going to factor that one out, an hour before I come to work. It's kind of like autopilot, but that's more of body maintenance, if you will. I don't know if I'm going to call that total self-care. Um, but the other stuff, I wouldn't even think of doing that. I'm gonna rethink that based on what you said.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's important because people, if I don't schedule my life, other people will schedule it for me.
So if the and true, so toxic relationship, you got some, and maybe we don't call it toxic, maybe a relationship that you feel doesn't really support anymore. What's the best way to handle that? Should you actually say something to them? Should you just pull back in terms of your interaction with them? I kind of struggle with that.
That is very dependent on how unhealthy the relationship is, right? If something is extremely unhealthy, you have to find safe ways to get out, right? Like that's not just a one and done, that's a process with other people. right? Um, if it's just something that's subtly unhealthy, and sometimes compassion for the other person helps them make it less uncomfortable for them. We need to be, I can never walk in your shoes and you cannot walk in mine. And so I need to look at the fact that every relationship is different. Every person that I come in contact with is different. And all of it comes down to what is okay for me, right? So I need to, oh, and we all do. Like, it's not even, it's about you as a person. We as people, who do we let into our lives and why are they there? Are they there for a day? Are they there for a season? Or are they there for a lifetime? Right?
Mm,
So looking back at that, I get to go, okay, I want this person in my life. So am I willing to help them change the things that need to change? Am I willing to do that? Yes, I am. I want them enough to be honest with them and say, you know what, we can work on this together and we can make it work.
mm.
And then there are people you're like, well, this is not going to work, and I'm gonna go. So long as it's safe to do that, then it's safe to do that. If it's not safe, that's a whole bigger issue.
Season or a reason. I completely subscribe to that. People being in our lives. And it is so interesting when you take the time to look at that and analyze who's in your life and are they here or were they here for a reason or the season or are they long term? Um, Even in the past year, there were people in my life that I don't connect with them since child to 17, teens. Something shifted and we don't connect anymore. And that's okay. It just something doesn't feel the way it did. And then certainly, there could be somebody that's in your life for 6 months. But I bet you if you take the time, you'll figure it out why they were there.
Yep,
Mm.
absolutely.
It
Because we're
it
all there for a reason.
it's true though. Like it really is when you think of it, but you get a little bit of soul searching. Like this person might have been in your life and maybe not as strong in your life anymore. However, they introduce you to other people that you're very much connected to. So maybe they were the connector to these people. It's funny, I don't play chess, but it almost looks like a chessboard where, how things move. Um, it's really profound when you start taking the time to look at that.
Yep, absolutely. Because
Mm,
that's really as simple as it is. We are really just, we are chess pieces, and we fit here, we fit there, we don't fit here. This person comes, this person goes. And Kevin Bacon, wasn't him that did the 6 degrees of separation,
yeah.
which is factual. I have met people miles, 10,000 miles away that I would have never met if I hadn't met this one person 10 years ago, right? Like, it's remarkable how all of that can
Yeah.
just work, right?
And there are some that believe that it is happening for a reason. These people were put in your life for a reason, even if it's just a reminder of something. Um, I was thinking about my dad recently. Didn't wasn't super close with him. Passed when I was 21, but he's been on my mind. And just thinking about a little bit. I run into somebody yesterday, new. Um, he was talking about his dad. Wrote a book about his father as well, and that person's name was Jack, and that was my father's name. And I was like, I don't think that just showed up for any reason. I thought maybe a little validation from above. Who knows? Who knows? But it was almost weird. it, I don't want to read into things, but I like to look at things and see maybe there's some synergy and a reason for it. I know that's a little woo, but you never know. You never know. Got to be open to it.
It's not a little woo, actually. It's very, it's, that's totally me. So when you said it's a little weird, I'm like, all those words, I go, is it weird? Is it odd or is it God? Right? Is it, so
Ooh.
is weird just another word for odd, right? So the moment something like that happens, I'm like, is it odd or is it God? Well, evidently it's God, because they're put in my path. They're here for a reason. We've talked about intimate things I would not normally talk about with a stranger, right? So
Hmm.
all of those things kind of, I don't know. Some people call it coincidence, some call it synergy, some call it faith, some, it doesn't matter
Uh,
what it's called. It
And,
all,
and
Same thing.
And some people call it, there are no coincidences, and they call it, it's a coincidental incident. It's not a coincidence. How do we find you? Somebody wants to connect with you, and whether it's on a counseling level, therapy level. I know that you are very proficient in helping those pilot grief and loss, which a lot of what we're talking about here involves that. Not just the passing of somebody, it's loss, maybe a lost relationship, and you're grieving that as well. How do we find you, Fiona?
You can search me up at www.fffreedom.online, or you can email me at info@fffreedom.online.
Thank you for today and all the insight. We need to take a little time and evaluate what we got going on. And I appreciate it. We'll talk soon, okay?
Don't let people schedule your life for you. Do it yourself.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think I needed to hear that.
See you next week.
Yep, we'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.